It's Hyp3r Halloween.
First up on the deranged killers list is Steven Spielberg's Duel. Duel was originally a made-for-TV movie back in the 70s. Duel did so well on TV that Spielberg shot more scenes and made it into a feature-length film. In fact, Duel was Spielberg's first film. Duel is more of a thriller than a straight-up horror film, even though it does have some horror themes sprinkled in, and it does share some similar themes with some of Spielberg's later movies as well. Let's look at the plot. The plot of Duel is very simple. Our protagonist, David Mann, played by Dennis Weaver, is driving on a desert highway, and he's trying to make it to a sales meeting. He passes a large big rig along the way. The driver of the big rig gets mad at David for passing him, and basically decides to end his life. The big rig passes David several times, stalks him, runs him off the road, and even smashes into his car from time to time. Like I said, it's a simple plot. The best part about Duel is the tense situation and Dennis Weaver's acting. Anyone who drives has probably had an experience where they either pass a slow truck or are passed by an aggressive driver. It really plays with those emotions because it's incredibly realistic. Road rage is no laughing matter, and this movie takes it to the extremes. Dennis Weaver does a great job at portraying someone at wit's end. His character is established as being a bit of a pushover from his wife, and I guess he tries to prove to himself that he isn't by passing the truck. He continues to try and prove that he isn't a pushover in a scene at a diner where he and the truck driver are currently at. You can see the gears turning in David's head as he attempts to come up with the best way to handle the situation, as well as process why the truck driver is out to get him. He also knows the truck driver is there, but he doesn't know what the driver looks like. Regardless, David works up the courage to confront who he thinks the driver is. It's honestly one of the most awkward scenes I've ever seen, and I don't mean that in the bad way. David awkwardly walks around the diner, and you really feel for him. It's a simple misunderstanding that's spiraled out of control, and it's gone to such extremes. So, I haven't identified the truck driver with a name yet, and, well, that's because he's never fully seen. We see shots of his torso and his boots, but never see his face. We never even hear him talk either. This was done on purpose. If we had seen the driver, it would have humanized him. As it is, the main antagonist is a giant truck and won't stop until it takes David's life. It's just an emotionless killing machine, kind of like one of Spielberg's later films, Jaws. One funny thing that I noticed, there's a scene where David crashes into a fence outside of the diner. A few patrons, maybe the owner, I don't recall. Regardless, a few patrons come out and ask if he's okay, and they're generally concerned. I feel like if this was made in 2023, the first thing that would have been said is, "You need to pay for the fence you broke!" Another thing that I have to give this movie credit for is the look of the truck. It looks frightening. It's so menacing that if I saw this thing on the road, I would just steer clear of it. Another cool thing that I like about this movie is the fact that there's barely any dialogue in it. Don't get me wrong, there is dialogue, but most of the scenes are shot on the open road, so you really only hear the sound of cars revving, horns honking, and tires screeching. There are also a few jump scares with the truck horn honking when you least expect it. So, there's your horror elements. I normally don't care for jump scares, but these were done really well, so I'll let them slide. Like I mentioned before, Duel has a lot of similar elements to Spielberg's later films, especially Jaws. The hero is isolated in the middle of nowhere, being pursued by a menacing enemy that's being driven by a thirst to hurt, and could really benefit from a bigger vehicle. I can't really confirm this, but I would say that Duel influenced the movie Joyride. They have similar plots, although the driver in Joyride talks. Speaking of theories, I developed my own theory on the mysterious truck driver from Duel. I have a feeling that this isn't his first rodeo. He seems very okay with the idea of murder, so much so that he stalks David, attempts to hurt him in a variety of ways, and even waits for him when he seems to be taking a while. I originally thought that maybe he liked to collect license plates of his victims as trophies, since the filmmakers kept the shots lingering on the rig's plates. Of course, this is easily debunked if you know anything about big rigs, as they do require multiple sets of plates to drive between states. I do still think the driver has murdered before, though. He flipped the switch way too easily and became really aggressive. Duel has a bit of a cult following, but is also considered to be one of the greatest television movies ever made. And I can honestly see why, even though I did see the movie version. It did receive a DVD and Blu-ray release, and I highly recommend picking up a copy. My eyes were glued to the screen from start to finish. Duel is definitely worth a watch. Go check it out if you haven't seen it.